the correction in gold and silver was predicted by Hamilton on my website, and Clive Maughan predicted it, and I
Hmm.
predicted it to the
Oh, yeah.
day. You cannot go up 9 weeks in a row and not have a correction. So this is a correction. It's no big deal. We're probably going to retest the highs. I don't believe the correction is over.
The Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever. The Financial Survival Network.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. We've got a legend with us, the proprietor of 321gold.com. He's been a combat pilot, he's been a ferry pilot, and a real insider in the resource sector, and a confirmed skeptic and cynic when it comes to the government. I'm talking about Robert Moriarty. Bob, it's great to finally have you on the show. And hey, there's so much to talk about. But in the meantime, well, gold was trading at over $4,000 an ounce. Conveniently, gold and silver get attacked. I put that in scare quotes. And all of a sudden, gold is less than 4,000 and silver is under 50. And then they just happened to cut rates the other day. And this is the story of our lives here, this manipulation. It couldn't be any more apparent and obvious to the trained eye. Don't you agree?
I'm not sure I would agree with that. Can you name a financial market that is not manipulated?
Yeah, everything is rigged. We no longer have free markets. I think Chris Powell said we just have manipulations.
Yeah, but that's always been true. I would say commodities broker too. And one of the things they teach you before you take your Series 7 is all markets are manipulated, and they're manipulated by everybody. And who cares? Because you know that it's happening. The correction in gold and silver was predicted by Hamilton on my website, and Clive Maughan predicted it, and I
Hmm.
predicted it to the
Oh, yeah.
day. You cannot go up 9 weeks in a row and not have a correction. So this is a correction. It's no big deal. We're probably going to retest the highs. I don't believe the correction is over, but while I concede there's manipulation, I also don't care.
Same here, because when you're holding physical, you're immune to it. But when you're in the paper market, the synthetic metals market, then it all means something. And by all means, like I totally agree with you, when a market goes parabolic or attempting to, it's going to take a hit. And then they just time the manipulation for the prime moment of technical weakness and they pile on. And then you see silver go down $3 in a day. And, it's not natural. It's just noise, right? The manipulation
Well,
is just noise.
let me give you a market that is 10 times more manipulated than gold and silver, and that would be Bitcoin. Okay.
Hmm.
And 2 weeks ago on Friday, there was a flash crash after Donald Trump had another tariff tantrum, and Bitcoin wiped out $5 billion in leveraged accounts in 30 minutes. Now, there are some things that are so dangerous to do, and I get lots of people telling me I don't know what I'm talking about, Bitcoin, but it is easily the most dangerous market I've ever seen, because you can get a 10 or 20% move in a day, and anyone who has a leveraged position in gold and silver is being foolish, and anyone who has a leveraged position in the cryptocurrencies is going to get wiped out. that the manipulation there is 100%. I look at the cryptocurrencies as 98% speculation and 2% utility. And I know there's a lot of guys who think it's the cat's whiskers, but it's the most dangerous market that I've ever seen. And you raise a really good point. Holding physical gold, physical silver, you just have total safety, and it doesn't make any difference what the price is.
Yeah. Hey, well, before silver started taking off, when it hit $32, I knew that was hallelujah time. But at the same time, I'm going on eBay, and like, you do have to be careful of fake product on eBay. But when you get the right sellers and their coin shops, it's not going to happen. And you are still able to buy like 40% Kennedy half dollars, and even 90%. You were able to buy it under melt value. Anytime you could buy under melt value, you're kind of crazy not to buy it, right?
Well, strange enough, I'm a contrarian, and I literally called the top in silver to the day in January 21st, 1980, and people were paying a fortune for silver back then. And I called the bottom of silver. The bottom took place in November of 2001.
Right.
Gold bottomed in 1999 at like 252, 253.
That's,
But in
yeah.
1999, 2000, 2001, you could buy war nickels that have 1.5 grams of silver per nickel. You could buy them at a discount. You could buy the 40% Kennedy half dollars at a discount. You could buy the 90% pre-65 coins at a discount. And strange enough, I happen to think that's a really good way to invest because it's portable, it's legal, and it's, a 10-cent coin. God, I don't even know what it's worth now. A 10-cent coin is probably worth $2.50 or $3.
Around there. Yeah, like basically, I've worked on this. The formula is for $1 of face value, you take the spot price of silver, you multiply it times 0.715, and that will give you your silver melt value. There's additional melt in a coin, copper, nickel, whatever, zinc, but you don't get paid for that. You get paid for the silver. So, and then if you want to figure out the 40%, you just multiply that number that you come up with, 0.41, and then you'll come up with 40% silver content. And I bought them back after the crash in 09 when silver and gold really bottomed. I was buying those 40% Kennedy half dollars at 10% under melt, and now they're worth 6 times what they were then. For the a dollar's worth of 40% are worth about $14. So it's just funny the way that markets can even misprice things that have real value, and there's bargains. But now everything is trading at premium on eBay, and that was also an indication that the market was getting toppy. Yeah, right? Benjamin Graham said, yeah.
Absolutely. I follow the daily sentiment indicator, and it's the single most valuable indicator of sentiment that I've ever found. But there's 100 different indications of sentiment, and the premium or the discount for 90% silver is an excellent measure. Now, if you go to 2020, when we had the crash in silver and gold, you could actually buy the silver ETF at an 8% discount. So silver, physical silver, got down to about $12. but you could buy the ETF at the equivalent of $11 an ounce. And I looked at it and said, this is like
That's the bottom.
stealing. So I bought a bunch of the ETF, and in 6 months, physical silver went from $12 an ounce to $30 an ounce. That's a 150% increase in 6 months. So this latest move was a good move, but the move in 2020 was even higher in percentage terms.
Yeah, so Eric Sprott says $300 silver. Now he's saying even higher. I mean, obviously, in terms of what's happening to the currency, it's the silver is worth whatever it's worth, but then you get the demand for something of real value, and that makes it go up way more than even the rate they're debasing the dollar, right?
Well, the interesting thing about gold is I was buying gold in 1966 and 1967 for $35 an ounce. When it went to 4,400, that was 125 times increase. Now, I make the argument, and it's in my books, if you compare the price of gold to houses or trophy wives or loaves of bread or gasoline or automobiles, for something to go up 125-fold, it's absolutely extraordinary. But I think that what's happening now is a retreat from paper assets, and that is going to be world changing, and there's going to be a giant shift in economic power from the debt-based system of the West to the resource-based system of the global South and the global East. So we're in for the biggest financial change in 500 years, and very few people see it. And I've always argued that the purpose for physical gold and silver is as an insurance policy against financial chaos. And you can certainly see it. How the stock market can maintain its absurd valuation is simply beyond me, but it does.
Yeah, it certainly does. And according to our good friend Martin Armstrong, it's going to 62,000 by 2032. I think he said 62 or 65. I don't know. It's in the book that I wrote with him, The World According to Martin Armstrong. The update is coming out. You're going to love the update, Bob. I'm going to send you a copy, a signed copy, which is basically called the Armstrong Economic Code. The five truths investors must never forget. So
I'm not going to have time to read it. I've got another book that I'm reading right now.
Oh, okay. What's that? Ah, hey, that looks familiar. I've seen that book. I got one of them too. But
well, strange enough,
right there.
I got two of them today, and Martin Armstrong's an interesting guy because how he comes to the conclusions he does is unlike anyone else I know. He is in a class of his own, and he makes some remarkable predictions, but his prediction on war, frankly,
Yes.
scares me.
Same here. He basically said Ukraine's going to disappear. Europe wants World War III. Europe's in a protracted state of decline, and the neocons are running the asylum. And Martin Armstrong, most amazing person I've interviewed, besides you, of course, because when I first found out about him, Jim Sinclair was smuggling his newsletters out of jail. And
Right.
I'm reading this, and it's written, it's on written on an IBM Selectric typewriter, and he's got hand-drawn charts, and I never encountered anything like it before, and frankly, I didn't understand it. And I thought I was fairly smart, but I realized I had no idea my understanding of the world, the economic world, until I started reading his work. And, the amazing thing, Bob, is they did everything they could to destroy the guy. He gets out of jail. He's not bitter at all. All of his old clients, I presume, have retained him again. He can't run a hedge fund because he's got a record, but he doesn't even need to. He's basically a consultant to everybody. Probably the most of the world's billionaires won't admit it. I'm sure he's got to sign NDAs, but he's a consultant to sovereign wealth funds, central banks, huge companies, and it's agnostic. It doesn't matter if they're in China or they're in Saudi Arabia or in the United States or wherever. They all come to him in the end. So he's been vindicated. The only thing that's missing, I would love to see President Trump pardon the guy.
Well, here's what's interesting. He's actually a consultant to Trump.
I know. I know.
So,
He's not allowed to say that, though.
yeah, well, the interesting thing is, I believe if anybody deserves a pardon, it would absolutely be Martin Armstrong. He has contributed a lot, and he's brilliant in his own way. Now, I don't agree with 100% of what he says, but I don't believe 100% of what I say.
Yeah. Hey, isn't that the truth? Like, if you start believing everything you say, then you are making a big mistake, because we're wrong all the time. That's our human nature, is to be wrong and then acknowledge our errors, learn from them, and move on. But 2/3 of the population never wants to admit they're wrong about anything, Bob.
Well, the really interesting thing is, if someone makes a mistake, makes a prediction, and it doesn't come true, that's not a measure of that person being a fraud. It's a measure of that person being human. Now, I absolutely was convinced that we were going to have something major happen by the end of October. And I've said that several times in interviews. And the good news is I've still got one day.
And it's Halloween, too. One more day, exactly. And it's Halloween.
Right.
It's the human condition, and it's proof that God has if there is a God, whether you believe it or not, has a sense of humor that it programs us to do all these things. Let me ask you a question, Bob. Like, you're a student of humanity here. What's your take on AI?
Well, first of all, it's like rare earth elements. The name is a misnomer. It is not artificial intelligence. It is pattern recognition. And there's a giant difference between pattern recognition and artificial intelligence. It has some giant flaws. It scares me because it's something that could easily be misused. And I think it is being misused. It is. So I will tell anyone watching this, you can go to YouTube right now, and half the videos that are up are produced by AI, and some of them are absolute nonsense. And whoever made the videos knows they're nonsense, and they're feeding crap to us. Yes. So it's scary because it looks very realistic, and a lot of people will buy into it. It's very, very difficult right now to figure out what's truly happening, because the government and the mainstream media lies about everything. Now, I just did an interview, and somebody said, what's the first thing you do when you go on the internet? And I said, well, I go to CNN. And he said, well, wait a minute, you think that the mainstream media is always lying? And I said, they are always lying, 100%. But
Hmm.
I want to see what it is they're saying, because I know that's the opposite of the truth. So we live in a precarious time, certainly financially. If you want to see what's going on, you need to go back and you need to pick up a copy of Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. The Western debt-based system is collapsing. The American empire is collapsing. The amount of corruption is just absolutely staggering, and we are being lied to at every end. And I think this is a good chance. I had sent you some articles about
Hmm.
Robert F. Kennedy and vaccines. And as cynical as I am, I totally missed it. But there was a study done by the Henry Ford Institute or Henry Ford Hospital,
Yeah,
and they
in
studied
Michigan.
thousands of people and vaccines. And the conclusions they came to was that vaccines, the 73 vaccines that American kids have to go through, are exceptionally dangerous, and they are why the American society is so sick physically. When Robert F. Kennedy started looking into it, he went to the CDC and the FDA, and he said, I want to see the records of the safety trial on these vaccines.
And there
And
aren't
they
any.
essentially said, we'll get back to you.
They don't
And a year
exist.
later, they finally said, we never did any safety studies. Clearly, you could see it with COVID, you could see it with these so-called vaccines. It was a
Yep.
bioweapons program. It was designed to kill as many people as possible and to take control. And the vaccines are doing the same thing. We are a sick society physically, because kids are being given shots that they have absolutely no need for, but the pharmaceutical industry controls the government.
Yeah, well, the hepatitis B vaccine, the only time that is required for an infant is if the mother was an IV drug user. Otherwise, an infant has no chance of getting hepatitis B. This isn't my findings. These are doctors that have said it. And I couldn't agree with you more. But, the other thing, Bob, is our food supply is completely contaminated. I mean, in the United States, uh, even the so-called organic foods, you got to really question. You go to Europe and you have a piece of bread, and man, that thing is like a full meal. It's delicious, has this flavor, and you don't get fat from it. In the United States, it's like the worst thing you can eat sometimes.
Well, strange enough, do you know technically why that's true?
Well, it's because of fertilizers, I assume, and
Nope, nope.
pesticides,
They
and
they have changed the wheat
yeah, I was going to say,
to do the same thing that the MSG does. MSG makes you hungry. So when you're eating Chinese food and they put MSG in it, it is designed to make you eat more. And exactly the same thing is true with wheat. They've introduced genes that make you want to eat more. Statistically, I think 60% of Hispanics born today will die of diabetes, and it's because of the wheat. Okay, and it's that
yeah,
simple. And I live in Europe, and the really strange thing is, I can go to a bakery, I can buy a baguette for €1, 10 cents. I
hmm,
can eat it for 2 days, and then it's rock hard and it goes bad. And it's got nothing but wheat and water and yeast in it. If you look at the ingredients on all of the products in the United States, it is absolutely disgusting the crap Americans are being fed. And interestingly enough, Robert F. Kennedy has this Make America Healthy Again, and the pharmaceutical industry does everything they can to make him look bad.
Oh yeah, it's a real psyop. And yeah, there were things definitely pharmaceutical industry in its earlier years did right, but now so many of these drugs are like the trials all questionable. And but I think a lot of people waking up to it, and like the saying in the US is, you when you go to a supermarket, you don't go to the inner aisles. You go around the periphery of the supermarket because that's where the whole foods are. And you stay away from the inside because ultra processed food, the worst thing in the world. And, like when we were kids growing up, we'd have junk food, but A, it tasted better. I always say uh, B, it was like there was no GMOs, there was no chemicals in it. And I always say now the first biohacked food was the barbecued potato chip because it had salt, vinegar, and sugar and the crunch. And basically, they learned from that you could just get people to keep eating and shut off all signals that you're full, society
Right,
signals,
right.
shut them off. And that I bet you can't eat just one was the beginning of a movement. But I think we're going against it now, and more people are kind of waking up to this. Um, I know I
Well,
did a few years ago.
what Robert Kennedy is doing is truly historic, okay, and heroic, and I absolutely salute him for that. I hoped for a lot more out of President Kennedy or President Trump than we've
Mhm.
actually gotten. But Robert F. Kennedy is doing something that's wonderful for American health. And I had no idea until this Henry Ford study came out how dangerous the
Oh, yes.
vaccines were and the fact that they're required. And somebody showed me a number. If you can get approved by the FDA or the CDC for a vaccine, that's worth $1 billion a year. And these
Oh, God,
people
yeah.
have literally sold their soul to make more money, and that's obscene.
Here, this was a picture that I took when I was in DC. I was lobbying against algorithmic suppression by the big tech platforms.
Right.
And that's I guess that's HHS building. And he put a mural on it and it says, Maha, make America healthy again. And here, it says, real food, real people, real health, Maha. See that? And
Absolutely amazing.
isn't that
And
beautiful?
you're correct. Europeans would not eat the crap that Americans are forced to eat.
Yep. And he eliminated petroleum-based dyes in food. Basically, it might not be gone yet, but he gave him a brief amount of time, and there wasn't one lobbyist, nobody who came out and said, "No, we need them. It's good for people." And that's just the start. I think, look, Bob, we've got a situation where the Doge thing, that's gone, perhaps. I don't think it's really gone, but what they plan to do is get rid of half of the federal regulations by January. That's the aim. They're basically just going to cancel them out. Hopefully, the diet stuff that allows them to put all this crap into our food and into our bodies, hopefully those regulations are going to fall by the wayside because we are the most unhealthy country in the world. And you could just go to a shopping center, a mall, or a casino, or any place where people gather, and you see the physical state of people, and it's depressing.
Well, if you ever fly through Atlanta,
Yeah, I
okay,
have many times.
you will think you're at the San Diego Zoo because there's more hippos running around. Uh, if you watch the movie Super Size Me, Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That was an absolute classic. And the theme of Super Size Me was the guy was going to eat nothing but McDonald's for an entire month, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if they asked him if he wanted to supersize it, he would have to say it. He was doing this in Houston. And supersizing French fries is a pound of French fries.
Oh my
And
God.
he was going through regular physical examinations, and every one of the doctors said, "You got to cut this shit out. This stuff will kill
You're
you."
gonna die.
Okay. Your every indication, your blood pressure, your weight, everything is saying it's going to kill you. You can't continue this for a month. And it took him 6 months or a year to recover back to what it was. And that's the food that Americans eat daily.
No, that's not food. I call that what passes for food. What they're giving us, they're telling us is food is not food. All right.
Right.
It's some food kitchen conglomeration that is designed to hack your brain and get you to eat more than you otherwise would, and adversely impact your health. That's what passes for food. All fast food. Although I will say, like certain ones, I don't really do fast food, but certain ones, when they have meat sandwiches, I'll toss the bread, put my own bread on it, and I'll eat it. So, hey, Bob, really appreciate you coming on. You find Bob's work over at 321gold.com. That really is the go-to place for our sector, for people that care about value, about things that really matter, about investing and everything else. Appreciate you coming on. We will definitely talk to you again soon. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for me, for posting my articles over the years. It really makes a difference.
Well, actually, and I'm glad that you brought that up. When Barbara and I started 321gold.com, we defined our goal as to help the industry. And I will support anyone who has a reasonable point of view. Nobody has to agree with me. And our readers have found your work, and you get some very brilliant people to
Mhm.
interview. And actually, it's quite an honor to be interviewed by you.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, if I wasn't suppressed by big tech for the past 13 years, my show would be like probably 30 or 40 times bigger. When I put it into Google's Gemini, asked them why Financial Survival Network is being suppressed, the first thing it said was, I'm borderline. That's how they classify it. That I'm an advocate of Austrian economics, and I encourage people to buy gold and silver as part of their investment strategy. That's what makes me borderline. So I guess it's a badge of honor. But right now, I am in the process of putting together a lawsuit against a certain large tech company that I won't name because they'll just censor this. And it's going to be filed in the next couple of weeks, and then the fun will begin. So I'm representing myself. I call myself America's top recovering attorney. 35, 40 years of it. I had enough, and I've been doing this for 15 years, and there's nothing else I'd rather be doing because I get to talk to people like you who don't buy into the psyop. It's all a big psyop, and we're all part of it. Sometimes we get sucked in, sometimes we can escape it, but it's going on all around us, Bob.
Some battles are worth fighting, and this was all predicted in the book, The Fourth Turning. And I would highly advise people to read the book because it predicted exactly what's happening today. And I believe at the end of the day, we'll be okay. Now, what form the United States exists in, then I don't know, but I know there's a gigantic shift, a 500-year shift in economic power.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think there's a decentralization trend coming. And once this shift comes about, nobody will trust paper money, fiat money. Nobody will trust government. That's one of Martin's five truths that investors must always remember is that governments lie, but markets don't.
That's a good point. Excellent point.
So, hey, well, keep your eyes open. I will shoot you out a book, The Armstrong Economic Code. Appreciate everything you did. A shout out to your trusty assistant there, Samara. She's been amazing and a pleasure to work with all these years. And thank you to you.
Okay, thank you. Anytime. And when you get the link, send it to me.
You got it. All right, Bob. Thanks.
Okay, bye.